My name is Eleanor, I am 82 years old, and until the night my son and his wife tried to bury me alive, I believed that the worst pain a mother could ever endure was losing a child. I was wrong. The worst pain is realizing your own child wants you gone. The cold earth pressing against my skin, the smell of damp soil filling my lungs as I gasped for air, and their voices above me, arguing about whether I was deep enough, are moments I will never forget. My heart pounded, not just from fear but from disbelief. How could the baby I raised, the boy I once rocked to sleep, stand there holding a shovel, planning my death? The night was silent except for the sound of shovels digging into the dirt. The moonlight barely touched the edge of the old barn where they had dragged me. My wrists were tied, my body frail but still fighting. Every movement hurt, but I refused to let go of life. I heard Lisa, my daughter-in-law, hiss through her teeth. "Hurry up! Someone might hear us." Her voice was sharp, trembling with urgency, but also filled with something darker: greed. I tried to scream, but the gag in my mouth turned my cry into a muffled whimper. David, my son, hesitated for just a second, his breath heavy as he leaned on the shovel. "She's my mother," he said, his voice cracking. But Lisa snapped back. "She's standing in the way of our future. You know what needs to be done." My body was already half buried when I felt the first clump of dirt hit my face. Panic shot through me like fire. I struggled harder, but my weak arms barely moved under the ropes. I felt myself suffocating as the earth grew heavier on my chest. This was it. This was how they planned to erase me. From my own land, from my own house, from the life I built. Just when the weight became unbearable, I heard the distant sound of a car door slamming and a voice shouting my name. Hope flickered, but so did fear. Would they finish me off before help arrived? As the headlights pierced the darkness, David dropped the shovel, his eyes wide like a trapped animal. Lisa cursed under her breath. I couldn't see who the voice belonged to, but it was getting closer, louder. My vision blurred, my heart raced, and my mind screamed for survival. Then everything went black. But that was not the end of my story. It was only the beginning. To understand how I ended up in that shallow grave, you need to know where it all started. My life had been anything but easy, yet I never imagined it would come to this. I gave my son everything, my time, my love, my home. After my husband died, I sold most of our belongings to keep the house and to help David start his own business. I thought we were a team, that he would take care of me when I couldn't take care of myself. But as the years passed, he changed, and so did the woman he married. Lisa came into our lives like a storm. At first, she was charming, helping me with groceries and even calling me Mom. But little by little, the sweetness turned bitter. She started whispering to David when they thought I couldn't hear. They locked doors, took secret phone calls, and soon they began talking to me as if I was a burden. "You should consider a nursing home, Mom," David said one evening, his tone cold. I brushed it off, thinking maybe he was stressed. But the looks Lisa gave me, the smirk when I walked past, told me something sinister was brewing. I tried to ignore the warning signs. I tried to love them the way I always had. But the day I overheard them talking about the house, my heart sank. "It's in her name," Lisa said. "Once she's gone, we can sell it and finally move to the city." That's when I realized they weren't just thinking about my future. They were plotting my end. Still I stayed silent. I hoped my son would come to his senses. I hoped love would win. But love means nothing to people blinded by greed. Weeks later, the so-called accidents began. The loose stair that almost made me fall. The medicine bottle with the wrong pills. The heater that mysteriously stopped working on a freezing night. They were testing me, waiting for me to slip. I held on, watching, pretending I didn't know. But I kept a journal, writing down every strange thing, every cruel word, every suspicious moment. I didn't know it at the time, but that journal would save my life. The night they tried to kill me was supposed to be my last, but fate had other plans. As I lay there under the dirt, I realized something. I wasn't ready to die. Not like this. Not at their hands. When I woke up, everything had changed. But how did I survive? Who was that voice in the dark? And what happened when the truth came out? You'll have to stay with me to find out. Because this is the story of how an old woman fought back and won. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you want to hear how justice found its way back to me. The next chapter will leave you breathless. When I opened my eyes, the world above me was spinning. For a moment I thought I was in heaven. But the burning pain in my chest and the cold dirt sticking to my skin reminded me I was still alive. My head was pounding, my body trembling. I blinked rapidly and realized I was no longer in the pit they had dug. I was lying on the back seat of a car, wrapped in an old blanket, with someone's strong hands pressing on my shoulders to keep me still. "Eleanor, can you hear me? Stay with me," a voice said, urgent but soothing. I turned my head slightly and saw Michael, my neighbor's son, who had grown up just across the road. He looked terrified, his eyes glistening under the faint glow of the car's dome light. "I saw them dragging you," he said, his voice breaking. "I followed them. Called the cops. You're safe now. Just hold on." Safe. Could I even believe that? My heart still raced as if the danger was right there. I opened my mouth to speak, but my throat was too dry. Michael gave me water and I took a small sip. Tears rolled down my cheeks, mixing with the dirt. "They tried to kill me," I croaked. He nodded with a grim expression, gripping the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles turned white. The sirens came not long after. Blue and red lights flashed across the night as police cars swarmed around the barn. Michael pulled over and the officers rushed to me, covering me with a clean sheet and lifting me onto a stretcher. My mind was foggy, but I caught a glimpse of David and Lisa being handcuffed, their faces pale as ghosts. Lisa screamed, "This is a mistake. She's lying." But her voice faded as they were shoved into separate police cars. The paramedics asked me questions, checked my vitals, and reassured me repeatedly that I would be okay. But inside I was broken. My own son. My flesh and blood. How do you ever come back from that? At the hospital, doctors treated me for shock, dehydration, and minor injuries. The nurses were kind, speaking to me softly, almost as if they were afraid I might shatter. I spent the night staring at the ceiling, my heart heavy with grief. Memories of David as a little boy flooded my mind. The way he used to hug me after school, the nights I stayed up sewing his costumes, the sacrifices I made so he could have a better life. How did we get here? What went wrong? The next morning, detectives came to take my statement. They asked everything, what led up to this, why I thought they would do such a thing. My voice trembled, but I told them the truth. I told them about the whispers, the accidents, the greed over the house. I even handed them my journal, where I had documented everything. One detective, a woman named Officer Rachel Hayes, looked at me with deep sympathy. "You were smart to keep this," she said. "It's going to help us build a strong case against them." Case. The word echoed in my mind like a hammer. They were going to face justice, yes, but that didn't erase the pain. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw David's face that night, the hesitation in his eyes, the fear, and yet, he still went along with it. Days passed, and the house where I had spent my life suddenly felt like a crime scene in my heart. I couldn't go back there yet, not with the memories haunting me. Michael and his mother took me in, treating me like family. I felt safe, but also humiliated that at my age, I had to depend on others for protection. Meanwhile, the news spread like wildfire. The town was buzzing with a shocking story of the son and wife who tried to bury Grandma alive. Reporters camped outside the hospital, asking for interviews, but I refused. This wasn't a story for headlines. This was my life. As the investigation unfolded, dark secrets came to light. The detectives found out that Lisa had taken out a secret life insurance policy on me, something I never agreed to. The amount was staggering. They also uncovered emails between her and David, planning how to stage my disappearance. They even had a buyer lined up for my house. The betrayal cut deeper with every revelation. I sat in the hospital bed, staring at the window, when Officer Hayes came in with an update. "Eleanor," she said gently, "they're both being charged with attempted murder and conspiracy. The evidence is overwhelming. I nodded, but my heart was conflicted. Justice was coming, but could I ever forgive? Could a mother's love survive such a wound? That night, as I drifted into uneasy sleep, I had a dream. In it, my late husband stood by the window, looking at me with sad eyes. "You're stronger than this, Ellie," he whispered. "You will rise." I woke up in tears, clutching the blanket as if it were his arms. The trial was approaching, and with it, the chance to face them again. Part of me dreaded it. Part of me longed for it. I wanted to look my son in the eyes and ask him one question: why? But nothing could prepare me for what happened next at the first court hearing. Because as soon as they brought David in, he collapsed to his knees, sobbing uncontrollably, shouting something that made everyone in the courtroom gasp. What he said changed everything. Stay with me, because the next chapter will reveal the shocking words that came out of my son's mouth. You don't want to miss this. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Your support keeps these stories alive. The truth only gets deeper from here. The courtroom was silent except for the sound of David's sobs echoing off the wooden walls. He was on his knees, shaking, his hands clutched together as if he were begging for his life. The judge called for order, but even she looked stunned. Everyone leaned forward, waiting for him to speak. I held my breath, my heart pounding so hard I thought it would burst. Then the words came out, raw, broken, desperate. "Mom, I didn't want to do it. I swear I didn't want to do it. It was Lisa. She threatened me. She said she'd kill me if I didn't go along with it." His voice cracked, tears streaming down his face. The courtroom gasped. Lisa shot him a look so venomous it could have burned through steel. "Liar!" she screamed, struggling against the bailiff who was holding her back. "You were the one who came up with it. You said she was useless. You said she was holding us back." The judge slammed her gavel, demanding silence, but the chaos continued. My hands trembled in my lap as I tried to process what I was hearing. Was my son telling the truth, or was he just trying to save himself? My heart wanted to believe him, but my mind whispered doubts. The prosecutor stepped forward, his voice calm yet firm. "Mr. David, are you claiming coercion? Are you saying you were forced into this plot against your mother?" David nodded vigorously, still crying. "Yes. She manipulated me. She said if I didn't help her, she would leave me and take everything. She said she'd tell people I was abusing Mom. She blackmailed me." The courtroom buzzed with whispers. The prosecutor turned to Lisa, who was glaring with pure hatred. "Mrs. Lisa, do you deny these claims?" Lisa smirked, her tone dripping with poison. "He's lying to save himself. He's pathetic. He's always been pathetic. I did what I had to do for our future. That old woman was never going to die, and she was sitting on everything we needed. I felt like my chest was being ripped open. There it was, the truth in its ugliest form. Greed had eaten them both alive." Lisa's words stabbed me like knives, but it was David's tears that hurt the most. The judge ordered a short recess. As they escorted David and Lisa out separately, he turned to me one last time. "Mom, please. Please forgive me." His voice was so small, so broken that for a moment I saw the little boy he used to be. Tears blurred my vision, and I couldn't bring myself to respond. When the court resumed, the prosecutors laid out the evidence. Emails, insurance documents, witness testimonies, all pointing to a carefully planned attempt on my life. The jury listened, their faces hardening with every revelation. Lisa sat there with a cold smile, as if she was untouchable. David kept his head down, ashamed. As the trial dragged on for days, more secrets spilled out. Lisa had been having an affair with a man in the city, and they planned to run away together once I was gone and the house was sold. The insurance policy. It was in her name alone. David hadn't known about that part. His guilt and shame were written all over his face. One evening after court, Officer Hayes approached me. "Eleanor, we believe David was manipulated, but he's still guilty of participating. The jury might be lenient, but he will serve time. My heart twisted. I wanted justice, but I also wanted my son back. Could I have both? At night, I sat by my window, looking out at the stars, wondering how a mother's love could survive something so monstrous. My late husband's words came back to me. You will rise. The final day of the trial arrived, and I walked into that courtroom with my head held high. No matter what happened, I would not let them break me. I took the stand, telling the jury every detail of my ordeal. My voice trembled at first, but soon it grew stronger. They tried to bury me alive, I said, staring directly at Lisa. But they forgot one thing. Justice always rises from the dirt. The courtroom erupted in murmurs. The judge called for order, and the jury left to deliberate. I sat there in silence, gripping the edge of my chair. Minutes felt like hours, hours like days. When the jury finally returned, the tension was so thick you could cut it with a knife. The foreman stood, holding the verdict. Everyone waited. My heart felt like it would stop. The words that came out of his mouth changed everything. What the jury decided was something no one in that courtroom saw coming. Stay with me, because the next chapter will reveal the verdict that shocked the entire town and what happened the moment the judge announced it. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Your support helps keep these stories alive. The storm is just getting started. The foreman's voice was steady, but every word seemed to echo louder than the last. On the charge of attempted murder, we find the defendant, Lisa Carter, guilty. Gasps filled the courtroom. Lisa's smug smile finally cracked. She shouted at the jury, calling them liars, but the judge silenced her with a single bang of the gavel. Then the foreman turned to David. My heart stopped. On the charge of attempted murder, we find the defendant, David Carter, guilty of conspiracy, with recommendation for leniency due to coercion. I couldn't hold back my tears. It was justice, but it also meant my son would still go to prison. Lisa screamed and kicked as bailiffs dragged her out, her voice shrill. You'll pay for this, old woman. You think this is over. The judge ordered her removed immediately. David, however, stood there quietly, tears streaming down his face before whispering again, Mom, I'm sorry. The judge's sentence was swift. Lisa received 25 years without parole. David received 10 years with the possibility of early release for good behavior. My hands shook as I clutched the edge of the seat, processing what had just happened. Justice was served, but my heart ached. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed, shoving microphones in my face. Mrs. Carter, do you have any words after this shocking verdict? I looked straight into the cameras, my voice calm but firm. I survived because of faith and because good people still exist. This is a warning to anyone who thinks greed is worth a life. It's not. Then I walked away, refusing to let them see me break. The following weeks were a blur. I returned to my house, but it didn't feel like home. The walls whispered memories of betrayal. Every corner reminded me of the night they tried to take my life. I thought about selling it, but something inside me refused. Why should I give up my home because of what they did? Well, I was going to reclaim it piece by piece. Michael and his mother continued to check on me, helping with repairs. I grew stronger every day, physically and emotionally. I joined a local support group for victims of family betrayal, where I met people who had faced similar horrors. Sharing my story gave me power. Each word I spoke felt like taking back a piece of myself. Meanwhile, Lisa rotted in prison, but she didn't stop plotting. I began receiving anonymous letters, threatening ones. The police traced them back to her cell. Even behind bars, her hatred burned. Officer Hayes assured me she was under strict watch, but the letters kept coming. They were filled with venom, promising that one day she would finish what she started. As for David, he wrote to me from prison. His letters were filled with apologies, memories, and pleas for forgiveness. I read them, cried over them, but never replied. Not yet. My heart was torn between love and anger. Forgiveness is a powerful thing, but it doesn't come easy when the wound is still bleeding. Months passed, and life slowly returned to a fragile normal. I started gardening again, planting roses where the old barn once stood. Every bloom felt like a victory, a reminder that beauty can rise from the ugliest soil. But peace never lasts forever. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, I heard a noise at the back of my property. My heart pounded as I grabbed a flashlight. When I stepped outside, the beam of light caught a shadow moving near the trees. "Who's there?" I shouted, my voice shaking. There was no answer, only the sound of rustling leaves. I called the police and they searched the area but found nothing. The next morning I discovered a note pinned to my door. It read, "You thought you buried me? Think again." The handwriting wasn't Lisa's. Fear gripped me like a vice. Was someone helping her? Or was this a new threat altogether? Officer Hayes promised to increase patrol around my property, but my instincts told me this was far from over. For weeks, I lived in constant fear, checking every window, locking every door. Then one night my worst nightmare returned. I woke to the sound of footsteps inside my house. My heart raced as I reached for the phone, dialing 911 with trembling hands. The footsteps came closer. Before the police arrived, I came face to face with someone I never expected to see again. What I saw in my hallway that night nearly stopped my heart, and it changed the course of everything. Stay with me because in the next chapter, you'll discover who broke into my house and why. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Your support keeps me strong enough to share this truth. The danger was far from over. The figure stepped out of the shadows slowly, and when the light from my hallway lamp hit his face, my knees almost gave out. It was David. My son, thinner, paler, with eyes sunken from the weight of prison. He stood there trembling, his hands raised slightly. "Mom, don't scream. Please. I just need to talk to you." Shock froze me in place. "David," I whispered, my voice cracking. How are you here? You're supposed to be in prison." He took a cautious step forward, tears glistening in his eyes. "I escaped, Mom. Had to. They were going to kill me in there. Lisa's people, they run everything inside. I didn't know who else to turn to. I swear I'm not here to hurt you. Please believe me." My heart was pounding so hard it hurt. Part of me wanted to run, to lock the door and call the police. But the other part, the mother in me, couldn't move. I stared at him, searching his face for the boy I once knew. "David, you shouldn't be here," I said softly, but my hands were trembling. "You'll only make things worse." Tears streamed down his cheeks. "I know. But I needed to warn you. Lisa has people on the outside. They're coming for you, Mom. She wants you dead no matter what. I heard them planning it. She still has connections." Fear clawed at my chest. Could it be true? The letters, the shadow, the note on my door. It all made sense now. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked, my voice shaking. "Because you're my mother," he said, choking on his words. "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I betrayed you. I let her twist me into something I'm not. But I can't let them finish what we started. Not after what you've been through." I was torn between anger and a fierce, painful love. Before I could respond, sirens blared in the distance. David looked panicked. "I have to go before they find me here. I just needed you to know. Please stay safe. They're not done with you." And just like that, he was gone, slipping into the night before the police arrived. When they questioned me, I told them the truth. My son had been there, but he hadn't hurt me. Officer Hayes looked grim. "We'll find him," she said. "But Eleanor, if what he says is true, you're in more danger than ever. We'll assign protection to you immediately." For days, officers patrolled my property, but the unease in my chest never faded. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, knowing someone was out there watching. Then one afternoon, as I watered my garden, I found a small object buried in the soil. A burner phone, wrapped in plastic. A note taped to it read, "For when you need me." It was David's handwriting. I hid the phone in my dresser, unsure whether to trust him or not. But deep down, I knew I might need him sooner than I thought. That night, the threats escalated. My phone rang at exactly midnight. When I answered, a distorted voice whispered, You should have stayed in that grave, Eleanor. This time, there won't be anyone to save you. The line went dead. I called Officer Hayes immediately, and she assured me they were tracking the call. But the fear was suffocating. The next day, my mailbox was smashed to pieces, and a dead crow was left on my porch. It was a message, clear and cruel. I decided I couldn't just sit and wait to die. If Lisa still had power from behind bars, then I needed to fight back. I began digging into my own resources, contacting an old lawyer friend of my late husband. He advised me to secure all my assets, move money, and set traps for anyone coming after me. I wasn't going to be anyone's victim anymore. Meanwhile, David managed to send me another message through the hidden phone. They're planning something big. Be ready. The fear was real, but so was my determination. I installed cameras, alarms, and even bought a shotgun. If they came, they would regret it. And then, one stormy night, it happened. I heard the crunch of tires on my driveway and the sound of car doors slamming. My security cameras caught two masked figures approaching my house with weapons. My blood ran cold. I grabbed the shotgun and called the police, my hands steady despite the terror. Before the intruders could break in, a third figure appeared out of nowhere, tackling one of them to the ground. The other tried to run, but the police arrived at that exact moment. It was chaos, screams, flashing lights, and the sound of gunfire. When the dust settled, I saw the third figure clearly. It was David. He had saved me. Again. But he was bleeding. He collapsed at my feet, whispering, "I told you. I wouldn't let them win." The police swarmed around us, taking the intruders into custody. Paramedics rushed to David's side. I held his hand, sobbing. "Stay with me, David. Don't you dare leave me now." As they carried him into the ambulance, I knew everything had changed again. The son who betrayed me had now risked his life to save mine. But would he survive? And what would happen if Lisa found out he had turned against her completely? Stay with me, because in the next chapter, you'll witness how my son's actions sparked a war between us and Lisa's hidden network. The stakes only get higher from here. Please like, comment, and subscribe, because the fight for justice is far from over. The ambulance sped through the rain-soaked streets, its siren cutting through the night like a desperate cry. I sat beside David, gripping his hand as he drifted in and out of consciousness. "Stay with me, son. Stay with me," I whispered, my tears mixing with the blood on his shirt. His eyes fluttered open briefly, and he gave me the faintest smile. "I'm not letting go this time, Mom," he murmured before slipping into unconsciousness. At the hospital, doctors rushed him into surgery. I was left pacing the sterile hallway, my heart pounding like a drum. Hours passed, each minute feeling like a lifetime. Finally, a surgeon emerged, his expression unreadable. "He lost a lot of blood, but he's stable. He'll need time to recover." Relief flooded through me so hard I nearly collapsed. But peace didn't last. Officer Hayes arrived soon after, her face tense. "Eleanor, we've interrogated the men who attacked you. They were hired by someone connected to Lisa's network. She's running this from inside prison. She's dangerous, and she won't stop." My hands clenched into fists. "Then we stop her," I said, my voice sharper than I intended. Hayes nodded. "We'll need your help." I wasn't afraid anymore. If Lisa wanted a war, she would get one. Over the next few days, I worked with the police, giving them every piece of information I had. I handed over the threatening letters, the phone calls, even the burner phone David left me. Using the evidence, they tracked Lisa's communications to a corrupt guard who had been smuggling messages for her. Meanwhile, David slowly recovered, but his spirit was fragile. Sitting by his bedside, I held his hand. "You saved my life," I said softly. His eyes filled with tears. "I owed you that, Mom. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I had to make it right." My chest ached, but I kissed his forehead. "Forgiveness isn't easy, but I'm trying." When David was well enough to speak with the authorities, he gave them everything: names, places, secret deals Lisa had made from behind bars. His testimony was powerful, and it turned the tide. The police launched a massive investigation into Lisa's network, arresting several accomplices. But Lisa wasn't done. Somehow, she managed to get a message to me, smuggled through another inmate. The letter was short and chilling. "You can hide behind the law all you want, Eleanor. When I get out, you're mine." The words lit a fire in me. I realized this wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about ending her power for good. I decided to take matters into my own hands. I began gathering evidence not just against Lisa, but against the people who supported her. I hired a private investigator using the last of my savings, and what we uncovered was shocking. Lisa had connections to a criminal ring that extended far beyond our town. Officer Hayes was impressed. "With this, we can push for maximum security confinement. She won't be able to hurt you again," she said. But I knew Lisa was like a snake. You can trap her, but she'll still find ways to bite. As the case against Lisa grew stronger, the tension around me thickened. I started noticing cars idling near my property, strange figures watching from a distance. My security cameras caught one man trying to cut the wires at night, but he fled before the police arrived. Hayes increased protection, but I could feel the storm building. Then came the night when everything exploded. David had been released under protective custody to stay with me temporarily while awaiting his new hearing. We were sitting in the living room, the quiet broken only by the ticking clock, when the power went out. The house plunged into darkness. My heart skipped a beat. Suddenly, a brick crashed through the window, shattering glass across the floor. Attached to it was a note that read, "The next one won't miss." Before we could react, gunshots rang out from outside. We ducked to the floor as bullets tore through the walls. The officers stationed outside fired back, and chaos erupted. Sirens wailed as backup arrived, and the attackers fled into the night, leaving behind only the smell of gunpowder and shattered silence. The attack failed, but it was clear. Lisa's reach was still strong, and she was getting desperate. The police moved us into a safe house, hidden and heavily guarded. For the first time, I saw fear in David's eyes, not for himself, but for me. "She won't stop, Mom," he said, his voice trembling. "Not until one of us is gone." I looked at him, feeling something fierce rise within me. "Then we make sure it's her." The final phase of the investigation began, but the danger was higher than ever. Lisa knew the walls were closing in, and she was planning something big. The authorities warned us to be prepared for anything. And they were right. Because the very night before her new trial, a riot broke out in the prison. Reports came in that Lisa had escaped. My blood ran cold. She was free. Stay with me, because in the next chapter, you'll see how the hunter became the hunted when Lisa came for me one last time. The ending of this battle is closer than you think. Please like, comment, and subscribe, because the final showdown is about to begin and you won't want to miss it. The news hit like a lightning strike. Lisa had escaped. The prison was in chaos, and several guards were injured. The moment Officer Hayes confirmed it, my stomach dropped. The woman who had tried to bury me alive was now out there, free, and more dangerous than ever. "We're moving you again, Eleanor," Hayes said urgently, her hand gripping my shoulder. "You and David need to stay under protection until she's caught." But even as we were escorted to a more secure location, I knew Lisa wouldn't stop hunting me. Every shadow felt alive. Every creak of the floor made my heart race. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, knowing that at any moment she could strike. Days passed in hiding. David grew restless, pacing the room like a caged animal. "She's coming for us, Mom. We can't just sit here." His eyes were fierce, a mix of fear and determination. I placed a hand on his arm. "We will face her, David. But we must be smart." Meanwhile, Lisa left her mark everywhere. The police found threatening messages spray-painted near our safe house, anonymous phone calls traced back to burner devices, and even a dead animal left at the entrance as a warning. She was taunting us, letting us know she was close. Then one night the power went out again. Only this time, it wasn't a coincidence. The backup generators failed. The guards stationed outside grew tense, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. My heart pounded as I clutched the burner phone David had given me. A loud crash shattered the silence. The back door splintered open, and a shadow moved inside. I held my breath, clutching a kitchen knife with trembling hands. David grabbed the shotgun and positioned himself by the hallway. The figure stepped into the faint moonlight. It was Lisa. Her eyes burned with hatred. Her face twisted into something almost inhuman. "You should have stayed in that grave, Eleanor," she hissed, her voice dripping with venom. "Stay back, Lisa," David shouted, aiming the gun. But she only laughed, a cold, chilling sound. "You think you can stop me, David? You're as weak as she is." She lunged, and the room exploded into chaos. The gun went off, shattering a window. Furniture crashed to the ground as we fought for our lives. Lisa was relentless, clawing, kicking, screaming like a wild animal. I swung the knife, narrowly missing her as she tried to pin me down. David tackled her, but she bit his arm and shoved him aside. "I'll finish this myself," she screamed, reaching for a shard of broken glass. Before she could strike, I grabbed a heavy lamp and slammed it into her head with all the strength I had left. She fell to the ground, dazed. The police stormed in seconds later, guns drawn. They wrestled Lisa into handcuffs as she spat and screamed. "This isn't over. I'll come back for you." Her voice faded as they dragged her away, but her threats hung in the air like poison. David was bleeding but alive. I dropped to my knees, shaking, tears streaming down my face. "It's over," I whispered, though deep down I wasn't sure if it really was. Lisa was taken back into custody, this time under maximum security with no chance of escape. The authorities promised me she would never see daylight as a free woman again. Yet, even as I tried to breathe, I knew her darkness would always haunt me. David was treated for his injuries and remained by my side. We both knew this wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about reclaiming our lives. He swore to me that once this was truly over, he would rebuild what he destroyed between us. But just when I thought the storm had passed, a mysterious envelope arrived at the safe house. No name, no return address. Inside was a single photograph, me, taken from outside the window, and a note that read, "She's not the only one who wants you dead." My blood turned to ice. Someone else was out there. Someone who wanted to finish what Lisa started. Who were they? And why were they after me? Stay with me, because in the next chapter, the real enemy steps out of the shadows, and the truth will shake everything to its core. Please like, comment, and subscribe, because this battle is far from over, and the danger is only getting closer. I stared at the photograph in my trembling hands. The image was grainy, taken at night, but it was unmistakably me standing in front of the window of the safe house. Whoever took it was close enough to see the fear in my posture. My chest tightened as I read the note again. "She's not the only one who wants you dead." My knees weakened, and I sank into the chair, gripping the edge so tightly my knuckles turned white. David snatched the photo from me, his jaw tightening. "This isn't Lisa. This is someone else," he muttered. "Mom, this is bigger than we thought." Officer Hayes rushed in when she saw our faces. I handed her the envelope without saying a word. She examined it carefully, her expression growing darker. There were no fingerprints on the photo or note. "Whoever did this knows what they're doing," she said. "This isn't just about Lisa anymore. We may be dealing with someone tied to her network, or someone with their own agenda." The revelation shook me to the core. I thought surviving Lisa was the worst thing that could happen, but now it seemed there was another shadow lurking, waiting for the right moment to strike. That night I couldn't sleep. Every creak of the house, every whisper of the wind felt like a threat. David stayed awake with me, shotgun across his lap, his eyes sharp and alert. "We'll get through this, Mom," he said, but even he sounded unsure. The following day, Officer Hayes assigned more guards to the safe house, but something told me it wouldn't be enough. Whoever was behind this was cunning, and they were watching our every move. Days later, an anonymous call came to the police station. The distorted voice on the line said, "Lisa was never the mastermind. She was just a pawn. The real person pulling the strings is still out there, and they want Eleanor gone." The words sent chills down my spine. If Lisa was a pawn, then who was the king? And why was I such a target? Determined to find answers, I went through the journal I had kept since the beginning. Every strange incident, every suspicious figure, every clue. I read it all again, searching for something I missed. That's when I found it. A name scribbled in the margin of an old page. Gregory Stone. Gregory had been my late husband's business partner years ago. After my husband died, Gregory disappeared, taking with him a portion of money that was never accounted for. I hadn't thought about him in decades, but now I remembered something. Lisa once mentioned him during an argument with David, saying, "Gregory knows how to handle old problems." My heart pounded as I shared this with Officer Hayes. Her eyes widened. Gregory Stone. He's been under investigation for organized crime for years. If he's involved, this is much bigger than we thought. The police began digging into Gregory's activities, and what they found was horrifying. He was the one who helped Lisa set up the life insurance scheme, and he had a personal grudge against my family because my husband had once refused to sell him the land our house sits on. Gregory wanted the property, and he wanted me gone. Meanwhile, David's phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "Tell your mother to leave the house forever or she dies." Attached was a photo of me taken just hours ago, standing outside under the porch light. My stomach twisted with dread. The safe house was no longer safe. Officer Hayes decided to move me to a secure facility, but as we prepared to leave, the power went out again. A vehicle pulled up outside, headlights cutting through the darkness. My heart raced. The guards drew their weapons, and David positioned himself protectively in front of me. The car door opened, and a tall figure stepped out. Even in the dim light, I recognized him. Gregory Stone. His cold eyes locked on mine as he smiled faintly. "You've caused me a lot of trouble, Eleanor," he said, his voice low and menacing. "But tonight it ends." Before anyone could react, gunfire erupted. Guards returned fire as Gregory ducked behind the car, shouting orders to men hidden in the shadows. Bullets shattered windows, and chaos filled the air. David dragged me to the floor, shielding me with his body. "Stay down, Mom," he yelled. The gunfight lasted minutes but felt like hours. Then, suddenly everything went quiet. The sound of footsteps approached slowly, and I knew it wasn't over. Gregory stepped into the house, gun in hand, smirking. "You should have stayed buried," he sneered. But before he could pull the trigger, a deafening shot rang out from behind him. Gregory froze, his eyes wide in shock, before collapsing to the floor. Standing in the doorway with the smoking gun was Officer Hayes. "Not tonight," she said coldly. Gregory was alive but badly injured. He was arrested on the spot, along with his men. The nightmare was over, or so I thought. As they dragged him away, he spat blood and whispered to me, "This isn't the end. There are others." The words sent shivers down my spine. Could it be true? Was there still more danger ahead? I clutched David's hand as we were escorted to safety, my mind swirling with fear and exhaustion. But deep down, a fire burned brighter than ever. I wasn't going to live in fear anymore. Stay with me, because in the next chapter, the final pieces of this dark puzzle will fall into place, and you'll see how I turned the tables on everyone who wanted me dead. The climax is near. Please like, comment, and subscribe, because the ending will leave you speechless. The following days were a blur of police interrogations, media frenzy, and sleepless nights. Gregory Stone was behind bars, heavily guarded, but his last words haunted me. There are others. What did he mean? Was there another layer to this nightmare that I hadn't uncovered yet? Officer Hayes reassured me constantly. "Eleanor, we've dismantled most of his network. You're safe now." But safety felt like a fragile illusion. The threats had always come when I least expected them. I refused to let my guard down. David stayed close to me, recovering slowly from his wounds. For the first time in years I saw the son I remembered, the one who used to laugh freely, the one who once promised to take care of me. "Mom," he said one evening, "I know I can't erase what I did, but I want to make things right. When this is over, I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you." I squeezed his hand, my eyes filling with tears. "You already started, David. You saved me when it mattered most." Still, the tension never left. Each day brought new reports of Gregory's associates being captured, yet whispers of another figure pulling strings surfaced. The private investigator I had hired before Gregory's capture called me with startling news. There was evidence of a hidden account linked to someone even higher up, a name that had been kept off the books. Henry Black, a known crime lord with ties to multiple cities. Henry Black was ruthless, notorious for never leaving loose ends. And according to the investigator, he had been financing both Lisa and Gregory from the shadows. My stomach churned as I realized this wasn't just about my land anymore. It was about power, money, and control. Officer Hayes confirmed it. "Henry Black is dangerous, Eleanor. But with your testimony and the evidence we've gathered, we can finally bring him down." But Henry wasn't going to wait for us to make the first move. The very next night I got a call on the burner phone David had given me. The voice was calm, almost polite. "Mrs. Carter, I admire your resilience. But this ends with you. You have one day to leave everything behind, or you and your son won't live to see another sunrise." Then the line went dead. The fear was suffocating, but so was the rage. I was done running. I was done being hunted. I turned to Officer Hayes. "No more hiding. If he wants me, I'll face him, but on my terms." With the police's help, we devised a plan to lure Henry out. Using myself as bait was risky, but I knew it was the only way to end this once and for all. They set up a trap at my house, now fortified with hidden officers and surveillance everywhere. I sat in the living room that night, the burner phone on the table, my heart pounding as I waited. Hours passed. The silence was heavy, almost unbearable. Then, just after midnight, a car rolled slowly up the driveway. My pulse raced. Through the window, I saw a tall man step out, dressed in black, his face shadowed by the brim of a hat. Henry Black. He walked toward the house with the calmness of someone who believed he was untouchable. The door creaked open, and he stepped inside, smiling coldly. "Eleanor," he said, as if we were old friends. "You've caused me quite the inconvenience." "I won't be your victim," I replied, my voice steady despite the fear coursing through me. He chuckled. "You think the police hiding in your walls will save you? I control more than you can imagine." His hand reached into his coat, and that's when chaos erupted. Officers stormed in, shouting commands. Henry pulled a gun, firing wildly as the room exploded into a firefight. I dove to the floor, covering my head as bullets shattered glass and tore through furniture. David rushed to my side, pulling me to safety. "Stay down, Mom," he shouted. The gunfight was intense, but the officers outnumbered Henry. Cornered, he tried to flee, only to be taken down by a precise shot to his leg. He collapsed, howling in pain as officers swarmed him. Even as they cuffed him, Henry sneered at me. "You think this ends with me? There will always be someone else." I stared at him, my voice trembling but firm. "Then I'll be ready for them, just like I was ready for you." Henry was dragged out, his empire crumbling around him. For the first time in what felt like forever, the weight on my chest lifted. It wasn't over completely, but the worst was behind me. Or so I thought. The next morning, as I stood in my garden, the sunlight warm on my face, I finally felt peace. Then David approached me, holding an envelope he found on the porch. Inside was a single key and a note that read, "For when you're ready to uncover the last truth." My heart skipped a beat. What truth? What was still hidden? Stay with me, because in the final chapter, I will uncover the secret that ties everything together and deliver the justice that will end this nightmare for good. The ending will shake you to your core. Please like, comment, and subscribe, because the last chapter is where everything comes full circle. I held the key in my trembling hand, staring at the note that promised the last truth. My heart pounded with both fear and curiosity. "What is this?" I whispered, turning it over in my fingers. David looked at me, his face pale. "Mom, maybe it's a trap. Maybe we should give it to the police." But something inside me said no, this was meant for me. It felt personal, almost intimate, like the final piece of a puzzle I had been trying to solve for months. Officer Hayes examined the key and note carefully. "It's not marked. Could belong to a storage unit, a safe, anything. We'll go with you." We drove to an abandoned warehouse district where, according to the investigator, Gregory once stored illegal documents. There, hidden behind rusted metal doors, was a storage unit with a lock that matched the key perfectly. My hands shook as I turned it. The door creaked open, revealing dust, cobwebs, and piles of old crates. Inside, we found boxes filled with files, photographs, and documents linking not just Lisa, Gregory, and Henry Black, but also several corrupt officials who had been protecting them for years. But there was something else, something that stopped my heart cold. At the bottom of one box was a sealed envelope with my name on it. I opened it slowly, my breath catching as I read the letter inside. It was from my late husband. "Eleanor," it began, "if you're reading this, then something has gone terribly wrong. I always knew Gregory was dangerous. Before I died, I secured documents that could destroy him and anyone working with him. I hid them in this storage unit, hoping you'd never need them. But if you found this, it means they came for you. Use these papers. Expose them. Protect yourself and our son. And know this, I loved you more than life itself." Tears blurred my vision as I clutched the letter to my chest. All along, my husband had tried to protect me from this darkness. His warning had come too late to save me from the pain, but it gave me the strength to end it. With the evidence in those boxes, the police were able to dismantle what was left of the criminal network. Corrupt officials were arrested, accounts frozen, and the entire operation was exposed to the public. The media exploded with the story, and for the first time in months, I felt the grip of fear loosen. Lisa remained in maximum security, isolated with no contact to the outside world. Gregory and Henry faced additional charges that ensured they would never walk free again. The network that once hunted me was shattered completely. As the dust settled, I stood in my garden, the same place where everything had begun to unravel. The roses I planted months ago were in full bloom, vibrant and strong, just like me. David stood beside me, no longer the broken man who once betrayed me, but a son who fought to protect me. "Mom," he said softly, "we made it." I looked at him, my heart swelling with both sorrow and pride. "We did. And from now on we live, David. We live without fear." The nightmare was over. The woman they tried to bury had risen stronger than ever. They wanted me gone, erased, forgotten. But instead I survived, I fought, and I won. And to everyone watching, remember this. Evil may come in many forms, even from those you love the most. But never forget your strength. Never let fear control you. If you stand firm, if you hold on to hope, you can overcome anything. My story is not just one of survival, it's one of justice. Thank you for walking this journey with me, for feeling every moment, every breath, every tear. My name is Eleanor, and I live to tell this story. If this story touched your heart, reminded you of the strength hidden inside you, and showed you that justice always rises, please like, comment, and subscribe. Your support means the world to me. Because this is not just the end of my story. It's a reminder that no matter how deep they try to bury you, you can always rise again.